Dave, we're here at the CCA Workbench. It's time for the Academy Sports and Outdoors Rigs and Techniques, just like every week here at the Florida Insider Fishing Report. Whew, I need a breath.
I got you.
Let's talk about tunas. You know, Dave, guys think that they got to go early, they got to fish late. And, you know, we catch tunas during the times of day when we're sail fishing. So what do you think?
You know, it depends on where you are, obviously. A lot of times that is the case, you know, that, you know, especially if you're targeting yellowfin. Blackfin are a little different, but yellowfin tunas, that's usually the case. Although, you know, you can do different things to target them when they're not up on the top and you can see them and get after them. Things you can do when they're down during the heat of the day is jig for them. If you mark a big school of tunas deep, you can throw you know, butterfly jigs at them. They love butterfly jigs of all shapes and sizes. Again, tuna have incredible eyesight. They're pelagic fish, you know, they're used to swimming in clear water, so they have really, really good eyesight, and they have good color eyesight. They have a lot of rods and cones in their eyes. So this is one of the fish where color really makes a big difference sometimes. They like a lot of pinks and reds, but they like pinks and reds because a lot of the food they eat is pink and red. And when pink and red is in the water, it really just turns to gray. So, you know, color is important with tuna fish, but it's not nearly as important as the size of the bait that they're eating. When you see a bunch of tuna fish out, you know, by the rigs or on a color break or a temperature break, and you can see them just jumping and feeding, but you can't see what they're eating, then you need to go down in size of what you're pulling. If you're pulling through there with a big island lure, like we always like to use, a big island lure, blue and white island lure, right, with a ballyhoo in it.
Big horse ballyhoo.
Yeah, and they're eating little tiny, you know, squids or even little puffer fish that are this big. Mm-hmm. They're not going to want to eat that big old thing coming through there 4 or 5 knots. You know?
We're not matching the hatch.
We're not matching the hatch, and it's very important in tuna fishing. So like these little kings here, I call them. It's what it is. It's just an octopus skirt with a nice quarter-inch or a quarter-ounce weight that you put up in the skirt, and put a little 4-aught or 5-aught live bait hook. That's a little circle hook there. A little tiny circle hook will work. I'd rather use a live bait hook. I wanted to show you the size, and I didn't have any live baits. The live baits I have are just a little bit bigger, and you could go up a little in size as well if you have to, if the fish are bigger. But an 80-pound tuna will eat this little king.
Right.
So, you know, as long as your hook won't straighten out with whatever leader you're using, that's really all you need. You know, if I'm using 40-pound leader because I've had to go down in size and get a bite, they're not eating the 100-pound leader and the big stuff that I'm pulling, then all I need to do is have a hook that's big enough not to pull out when the mate grabs the leader and gets him up close.
Right.
But the tuna fish fight hard. Like I mentioned earlier, they fight all the way to the boat. So, you know, you got to be, your terminal tackle has to be tight.
You hear guys talk about throwing big poppers in the busting tunas.
Right, well.
Is that a Bahama thing, or they do that up in Patty's region?
You can do it anywhere you see schools of tuna fish busting the surface on bait. I've done it from Colombia to Panama to Louisiana, off the coast of Cape Canaveral out here.
Right.
When we have to go a long way to get to tunas out of the Cape. Where I fish a lot, we have to go to, like Tommy said, we have to go to the other side of the Gulf Stream most of the time. It's a bird-centric fishery. When you've got a ton of area that you have to cover and find the fish in, it all comes down to finding the fish, and how you find the fish is finding the birds. And it's very specific. You know, if you see a birdnado, a giant whirl of birds with frigates and tuna birds and boobies and all that inside of it, that means you've probably on some yellowfin tunas. Now, if you see a bunch of little white birds, a bunch of terns, not a great big pile of birds, then you're probably finding skipjack and blackfin tunas. And they're both good to eat. You know, blackfin tuna are good to eat. Skipjack tuna, some people say that skipjacks aren't good. 90% of the tuna you get in the can is skipjack tuna. So skipjack tunas aren't bad to eat. So, you know, don't be afraid to catch a few skippies and put them in the box too. And not only that, if you do catch a skipjack tuna and you've caught a few and he's about, you know, 10 or 15 pounds, go ahead and put a big hook and throw him out. Because if you're fishing in a place where there's a lot of tunas, there's a marlin there too, maybe. And that skipjack tuna.
Bree, you heard
Bird.
it here
Really
first.
good.
If you find the boobies, you're going to find the yellowfins. You heard it here
Yep,
first.
bird is the word. Got it. All right, well, it's all about timing in the